Senator Ernst, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Yeah, absolutely, Benji. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to spend a moment with you and talk about issues that are very, very important to me. So thank you.
Amazing. So I want to start with the intro. You have been traveling to the region constantly since October 7th. In fact, you were part of one of the first delegations to be in Israel in the immediate aftermath of October 7th. You were in Israel last month meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu. You were in Syria meeting with President Shara. Talk to us about some of your insights from the region, from your travels. What have you learned? What do you think, as we reflect on the 5th anniversary of the Abraham Accords, what have your travels taught you?
Yes, and thank you for that. So I was actually the first delegation to enter Israel after October 7th. I was able to go into Israel on the 10th of October. I was highly discouraged by the administration, the State Department. The president was calling me, saying, you can't go into Israel. You can't go into Israel. And during one of those discussions with the State Department, I had to remind them that they're a separate branch of government, and I'm a United States Senator, and I will go into Israel because it was important to be there and support our friend and ally during that time of need. And so it was a bipartisan delegation. I had 3 other members of the House. They were all Democrats that went in with me. And so it was important that we go stand shoulder to shoulder with Israel in solidarity, show them support, make sure the others in the region knew that the United States of America was not going to back away from Israel. So it was important that we did that. Now, I've traveled 7 times since October 7th into Israel and into the region. And during those trips, I always do go to Israel. I meet with the Prime Minister. I meet with other leaders there. But I also take the time to visit our other Abraham Accords country members and prospective members as well, because we want stability, we want peace in the region. And it is important that all of those leaders know that there is the possibility of greater partnership, not only with Israel, but also with the United States. So from my perspective, we have come a long way, 5 years. I would say that, and I actually heard this from the King of Jordan, King Abdullah, on one of my visits last year under the old administration. He actually told me, and it was heartbreaking, he said, I have given up on the United States of America. Where is American leadership? And it broke my heart because they are such good partners to us. But now, this year, when I met with the King of Jordan on this most recent trip a couple weeks ago, you know, there was a level of optimism there. He feels that American leadership is back on the scene in the Middle East. We're making sure that we're communicating with our Abraham Accords partners and others. We want stability, and they see that. And so there was a level of optimism I haven't seen for a number of years, but it is because of the Abraham Accords.
Amazing. On the subject of possible optimism, any insights from your visit in Syria? Do you think, I know there's been so many rumors, but did you leave with any sort of optimism?
I did, okay, and I am a skeptic, okay, and trust but verify, right? Trust but verify. So President al-Shara, mind you, he served in Iraq under a different force known as Al-Qaeda. So when we met, I told him I as well served in Iraq. He kind of was taken aback by that, but then we laughed. So this is an opportunity right now. Whereas before we have been on opposing forces, now is a time when we can come together for the prosperity of the region and stability in Syria. So am I skeptical? Yes, I'm skeptical, but am I optimistic? Yes, I am also optimistic. So we will give the benefit of the doubt as long as they are earning that benefit. The minute things start going south, we no longer support. And we made that very clear to the president while we were on that visit. So we know that there are forces that will want to engage in Syria. So you can look at Iran, you can look at Russia, China, you can look at the influence of Turkey in Syria. The way we stabilize and the way that we move forward with Syria is by maintaining a presence there so that we can shape and influence, exhibit leadership, so that in the end, what would be the goal is that they're looking more to the West instead of seeking partnerships with our adversaries. So again, trust but verify. I remain skeptical but optimistic.
Thank you, Senator. You mentioned your time in Iraq, and in fact, you spent 23 years in the military. During your time in the Senate, you have been one of the biggest champions for legislation that brings together the United States with Israel and its and Arab allies. Talk to us about some of these legislations: Defend Act, Maritime Act, Link Act. What is the goal? You spend a lot of time saying that by having these close alliances in the U.S., this is in the benefit of the United States. This is more and more a view that we have been seeing challenged on various sides. Talk to us about why this is such a critical aspect of security for the United States.
Absolutely. For being a small town farm girl from southwest Iowa, I have been very fortunate to be very well traveled. And I have seen the impact that American leadership has made around the globe and how important that is, whether it is mill-to-mill relationships or military-to-military relationships, whether it is through the soft diplomacy of the State Department, whether it is senior leader engagement at the level of the president and other presidents. It is important to have discussions. It is important to have those relationships. My team always knows I preach this. I preach it. Relationships matter. They matter. You must have discussions. You must maintain relationships. If you don't have a seat at the table, you are not able to shape and influence the outcome. So it is very important that the United States remain engaged around the globe. Now, I would also say presence is power. Again, being around the globe. And I have seen this more coming from the military side, but you can take a small number of men or women in the uniform of the United States and you place them in a country somewhere, and that one single soldier or Marine, they become a leader because other foreign militaries look to the United States for leadership. They don't care what that rank is. They will see a man or woman in a uniform with the flag of the United States on their shoulder, and they see them as a leader. And by having that presence, we're able to work with foreign militaries and, again, collaborate to make sure that we're creating a peaceful and stable environment. So relationships matter. Presence is power. And I've seen that demonstrated time and time again. The way I do this now in my role, I'm not in uniform any longer, but I serve in the United States Senate. I've had a number of my bills passed in the Armed Services Committee and through the National Defense Authorization Act, and I'm so grateful. But the Defend Act, the STARS Act, the Link Act, you name it, the premise of all of those bills is that we take the Abraham Accords countries and we pull them together with military cooperation and information sharing. Each one of those acts pulls us closer together. I'm also working on the Defend 2.0, which takes a look at what happened during the 12-day war and the missile barrages that have gone on. Where were we able to intercept, thanks to the Defend Act? But then where are the gaps, and how do we close down on those gaps and make sure that we're even stronger should we ever see those strikes again?
Amazing. I think that's something that we're looking forward to seeing. I wanted to follow up on this. Understanding the key importance of U.S. engagement in the relationship, something very much that AJC, I think, also follows. This week, yesterday, we saw quite a difficult situation with an Israeli attack on Hamas in Qatar. From the U.S. perspective, how do you handle when you see complex situations like that? Where does the role of relationships come into play in a situation like we saw yesterday?
Again, relationships really do matter, and this has been, I'm not going to say a difficult balancing act. We should just take it on head on. Okay, so the president had said earlier today that he was disappointed in those strikes. We understand that Israel is in a place where they have said Hamas will be destroyed. End of story. So we support them on that effort. The problem is when you are striking a partner nation who has been working so heavily on securing peace and stability in the Middle East. And that country on this particular strike happened to be Qatar. So the president was disappointed in that. I did not feel that it furthered our relationship with those strikes when it hit Qatar. And while some of these nations, this particular country included, they don't want us to be public about the close ties and relationships we have with them or their militaries or their hosting opportunities. We know that they host Hamas at sometimes our request, but they also are home to the largest Air Force base that the United States has in the Middle East. So there is a strong relationship there, and we need to make sure that anytime we are interacting with our partner nations, that we're always putting the United States first, but that we're also working towards that peace element. And unfortunately, yesterday's strikes don't help our relationship with Qatar. At the same time, we acknowledge that Israel has stated they are going to go after Hamas.
I appreciate the candid response in a difficult and unfolding situation. Thank you. We heard news a few weeks ago that unfortunately you will not be seeking re-election. I remember talking to you actually just about 2 years ago. It was the third anniversary. Jason was talking about the third anniversary of the Abraham Accords. And we were talking about why a senator from Iowa felt so strongly about Israeli-Arab integration, Israeli-Arab cooperation. And you started talking about a liquid Band-Aid that Israel created, that they were able to, that came from like pigs within Iowa, and these insane connections that you would never really understand unless you were face-to-face with it. As you look at your tenure and as you look at the region and what you hope comes next, what do you hope that Congress can do? What legislation do you hope to see before you exit? And we are very sad on the AJC side.
Well, thank you. And yes, I did announce that I would not be seeking my third term in the United States Senate. And I'm so grateful because I do have a family that has been so supportive of me. I mentioned I'm a small town farm girl, and I never could have achieved serving in the United States Senate had it not been for the support of my parents and my beautiful daughter, Libby. Of course, over the course of 12 years, things change. I am now a grandmother, and my beautiful daughter serves on active duty. She is an Army soldier and blessed me with a beautiful grandson. So I'm a grandma, and I would love to spend more time with family, but we all have aging parents as well. And so just in order to honor my parents and my family, my calling is now to be able to spend more time with them. But because I do love the issues that I have worked on so much, and in particular when I look at the Middle East, and I am drawn to the Middle East, I believe because of my service during Operation Iraqi Freedom, and the difficulties that so many people will face around the globe, and what I saw in particular in the Middle East. we have to find a way towards peace. We really have to find a way towards peace. And so I have focused the entirety of my tenure in the United States Senate, making sure that Israel and her partners, and even those Arab nations that maybe are not partners now but have potential, continue to move forward. So I am very hopeful that even when I leave the Senate, I will be able to focus on this region and making sure that we're bringing partners together. That's yet to be determined. But in the meantime, I've got a year left, and I'm not going to slow down on these issues because they are so important to me. So I mentioned the Defend 2.0, making sure that the mill-to-mill cooperation and closing gaps when we have air and missile defense systems, making sure that those are operating to the best of our ability in those situations, making sure that we're moving forward and securing other partners to the Abraham Accords. So Saudi Arabia was on the verge. I was actually in Saudi Arabia when the attacks happened on Israel on October 7th. And when we left the meeting with MBS, we were celebrating because we knew that it was going to happen. October 7th happened, it set us back. But the potential is still there. There are other countries that want to engage in relationships with Israel. Syria is one of those. But again, trust but verify. We let them know you keep moving forward, you develop your nation, you provide opportunity for your people. We will see what we can do with Israel. So you look at Lebanon, what's happening there now. So I was able to meet with the president in Lebanon, and hopefully we will see the disarmament of Hezbollah. And if we can achieve all of these really wonderful things, we can bring more partners into the fold. So let's further the Abraham Accords. Let's bring in new partners. Let's create greater prosperity and stability for those nations. And I hope that I can see this accomplished in the next several years. But what I strive for, anything that will lead to greater safety and security for the United States of America. And that does mean by stabilizing other regions around the world.
Amazing. Senator, thank you so much. Know that AJC will be a partner with you in those efforts, something we very much cherish and hold on our heart. Thank you for your message of peace. Thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone, so much.